Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's good?
Hey, we are season 4, episode 7.
Yeah, we're back at a brag table.
Back at a brag table, and we've got a guest. But before we get into all of that, we want to say thank you so much for following us on Spotify and on YouTube and liking and subscribing. We appreciate all of the conversation and questions that you guys are sending us.
Yep.
If you guys have more questions, or maybe we've said something that you either liked, or maybe you want to hear us explain a little bit more, you can go to mintalkspodcast at gmail.com or buy me a coffee / Min Talks.
Min Talks Podcast.
Min Talks Podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, well, the purpose of the brag table is to bring a guest to you, but a friend to us, and just talk about what God is doing. We came up with this, was it season?
I think it was season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Pastor Charlie was on the first one.
Oh, that was season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah, it was season 2. Pastor Charlie was
and
there.
then Chris was on the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Pastor Wes always asks great questions, and I love the questions that he asks. He's going to ask them right now.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I have for our viewers, because we've been in this room chopping it up for almost an hour before we even hit record. Isaiah, can you introduce our guest today?
I probably should do that.
You should do that.
Listen.
I was about to be like, well
we're not gonna fake it here. We're just gonna keep this in. Hey, listen, I get the greatest privilege of pastoring youth and young adults, and I'm also a intern director. Sitting across from me is not just my youth leader, not just my young adult leader, but she's also my neighbor. And I'm not making that up. Literally,
right.
When we bought our house, one of Heather's prayers was that we live somewhere where we at least know somebody.
Right.
And around the time 3 years ago when we moved in, Heather met Bree, who was here, who was our guest, and her mom, Vanessa. And they were at a women's Bible study, and they were like, pray for us, we're looking for a house. And then we go to look for a house, and they're like, oh, where'd you guys look? And Heather was like, I don't know, something on like Rebecca Ave or something like that. Don't come find me.
I was about to say, don't say your I live there too.
Don't come find me. And she was like, what? Oh my gosh, we're right there. And Heather was like, what? So anyways, long story short, we have Briana Garcia here with us on this brag table. Really excited to have you here and just to hear your story about what God is doing, how God is using you in so many ways. But I'm going to let you rip with it. Go for it.
Yeah. So one of the questions we really like to ask all of our guests is, where are you currently serving? And what got you into ministry? Like what made you, follow the call, as it were?
Yeah. Well, serving in ministry now, I'm at River of Life Fellowship. Pastor Isaiah is my young adults pastor and my neighbor. We got many hats.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so I'm serving there. I serve for young adults ministry. I do the young adults worship and just young adults leader in general. And I also serve in Purpose 828 Youth.
Shout out.
Shout out to Purpose 828. Love them. Love the whole team. And I also serve for upstairs for worship, for main worship. So I'm a little bit kind of everywhere. That's just kind of where my heart is. I've always been like growing up with a servant's heart. What got me into ministry is because beforehand at my other church, I served immensely throughout there, like almost every department you'd see me somewhere helping. And it was just something because my last church, Family Life Center, it was right by my house. That's actually where I got saved. I got saved at summer camp through that church, which is...
Shout out summer camp.
Yeah, shout out to summer camp. Purpose 828.
Yes, let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm big on summer camp, too, for youth, because that's where I got saved.
Yeah.
But so I started serving over there at Family Life Center. That's where my parents got saved, so it was just like a whole unity within the family serving. So I was in Kidsmen. I was even helping with youth, even though I was in the youth.
Wow,
but
nice.
We didn't have a young adults yet. We had like young families and everything during that time, but that was also in transition when I was moving towards the river. But I also helped out with worship over there. But it was just something that I saw, and I got asked by my pastors at that time, like, hey, would you be interested in helping out with this or helping out with that? And so at that church, it was such a smaller church, so like everyone knew each other. We were all collectively like always together. Yeah. So, and we really wanted to do, what we could and what God wanted us to do through that and how to grow that ministry and bring people in outside of the church. So I really feel like during that season when I was serving over there, it was really like the time of growth, like during that church and like with youth and young adults, because a lot of people were starting to come during that time. So it was a lot. serving during that time, but it was a lot of growth, and I enjoyed every part of it, and I learned a lot. And I think it made me realize like certain areas where, okay, this is where I'm feeling called to serve in, and other areas where, like, this is a great experience, but probably I don't feel called in this area. But it was a great, and I was only like, I started singing on worship team when I was 12.
Wow.
So,
and this is the upstairs main worship team, right?
Yes.
Or, okay.
So we had an adults like worship team, and then we had like a youth and a young adults worship team. So I served in both because they're like, you want to do both? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it, because I was always just like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But so like from serving at 12 to like that age to like now is like thinking about it, it's like, whoa, like I really was serving since I was little. But I enjoyed every part of it. I enjoyed it. So that's kind of where I started.
Nice. That's very good. So how long have you been, let's just say, at the river?
At the river for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Okay. I started coming towards like during the COVID time. So everything was on Zoom, and then we had the outdoor services, which was awesome, with Pastor Jack put up there. I loved honking the horns. I think that was my favorite part.
Oh, yeah.
Family. Let us know you're in the house.
Yeah.
Houses would get really upset, but he didn't care.
Yeah, that's a different way to give an amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. That's awesome. That's very good. So in the next handful of years, right? Let's say you're continuing to follow passionately after God, right? In the next 2 to 3 years, right? Let's narrow it down a little. What do you see yourself doing in ministry, in life, that kind of thing? And then how has God actually led you in some of that, right? I mean, this is the brag table about Jesus, right? We're bragging on God.
Yeah.
So how's he actually leading you in some of that?
Yeah, so like currently right now within these, okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm in the internship with the River.
Let's go. That took a while.
Northwest University. I'm getting my AA right now in ministry to be a worship leader.
Awesome.
So that was a big step that I had to be willing to like move. But God was speaking to me because after coming out of that season of like my old church and now this new church, and just experiencing and learning and growing like with new leadership and learning new skills and just kind of just following God's direction more and just listening through his word and praying, the internship was like the biggest change of like season for me, and I did not want to do it. Pastor Isaiah can speak for that, because him and Savannah Giuliani were really like praying, and Dan Lorenzo was praying.
Okay, hold on. I gotta stop you because when we started the program originally, Pastor Jack wanted to see a college level program built.
Right.
But we didn't want to just build a program where you come and you intern and you get like this certificate. Right. We wanted to put a degree behind it. So Northwest University, who we are in partnership with, allows people to get a degree online through the MPP. Nice. She wanted to do it, but they didn't have a worship aspect to it.
Okay.
So I said, okay, you know what? I can respect that. That makes all the sense.
Right.
My guy, Dan Lorenzo, calls me.
Nice.
He says, Isaiah, call Bree. I'm like, why? What's going on? We have a worship aspect that we just added.
Nice.
I FaceTimed her. She's like, she's literally
driving.
She's driving, pulling into her driveway.
Okay, as long as you're in the driveway.
She's pulling into the driveway.
I was driving.
Right, this is how real it was. And it's me.
I was like,
it's me, it's Dan Lorenzo and Savannah. We're sitting there we're like, yo, we got it. And she's like, that's a lot. I need
because I was like, I was parking, I was like pulling in my driveway, and like he normally doesn't call me, so then I was like, okay, something must be wrong. Right. Like, okay, so then I pick it up, I'm like, FaceTime. I think this was like the first time you FaceTime me too.
First time I
ever. So I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I don't never. But so then, because I had Dan there, I needed
So proof. Then I turned it on and I parked, and it's Dan Lorenzo, Pastor Isaiah, and Savannah Giuliani just all staring at me like, yo. Hi, Bree. And I was like, this is an intervention, or what did I do? Right. Like,
she was like, I'll do the program if it's got a worship aspect, but it doesn't. We just believed in the program, but more so we believed in Bree. And we saw the hand of God on Bree. And so we just felt like, why not go after it? And so it took about 1.5 years.
It did. Right. Cool. And it was really because, like, I enjoy, like, where I'm at in the River, and I'm growing, like, with young adults. I'm learning how to lead in that area and that environment, and then with youth was super big for me because I didn't feel like I was like good enough to be able to serve in youth because I was a problem child in my teen years. So I'm like, I know how the youth can be. So I was like, I don't know if I'm like all the way there, and it's like we're never all the way there. And I had to take that step and be like, okay, God, like this is where you want me. So that was a big step, and I was learning to like lead in that, and then to lead in young adults. And I was like, okay, I feel great where I'm at, right? But then God was like, oh, there's gotta be more, because like I work full time right now, and I know God's blessed me with that job because I'm able to serve in ministry full time and have Sundays off. So I'm like, that's a big blessing. But I was just kind of like, I feel like I should be doing more. And then I was kind of prayed, and God was just like, yeah, there's more. And I remember he spoke to me because I didn't want to do it because it didn't have that worship.
Right.
But I still felt like I needed to be there. But then I was arguing with God because how me and God talk, I'm just like, but why though? Like, I don't, like, that's why I talk to him. I'm like, but why though? I'm like, there's literally no.
See, that reminds me of the book of Micah, the book of Habakkuk, the book of, like, people have got to be like,
everything's
well,
meaningless.
How did we do this for you?
She willingly said, I'm arguing with God. Like, why though?
And I know I'm not going to win, but like, it's like that humbling.
Try.
It's that humbling experience.
Well, and that's the true relationship with your father, though, too.
Yeah.
Like, that's great, you know, to be able to actually question something or sit back and go, well, you know, you made me, you know who I am. I'm going to need a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
I was like, I kind of need reassurance of like where I'm supposed to go, God.
Yeah.
And it was also because I was in a season of just being timid about everything. And Pastor Isaiah saw it. Heather saw it, like a lot of people did, and I was getting mad because like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I'm not timid, I'm not shy, like I'm serving on stage, I'm singing on the worship team, like, well, how am I shy, like, you know? And they're like, you know, like, just, and I was like, okay, whatever. But so during that time because I was serving in all these areas, but I still felt like I wasn't pursuing enough of what God wanted me to do. Like, there was something that like, it was just like a layer over my heart where I felt like I wasn't doing everything else. Like, I was in the right spot, but there was more that God wanted to stretch me and use me in.
Right. Come on.
So when I did the internship, it was crazy how God revealed it to me, because I prayed. I was like, all right, God, like, if you need me to do this, like, I need you to make it so obvious and like show me. Every time I pray that prayer, like, God, I feel like he just makes me laugh a little bit, because he's like, all right, I'll show you, like.
And I want to ask you something. I want to ask you something kind of personal, but it's very true. Because I know your story, some may not. That was a very big, you were very guarded, though, too, at the same time. And I remember you sharing your story with Heather and I, as far as you didn't want to overserve, get burnt out, or be seen as a disappointment if you weren't able to meet certain things.
Yeah.
And we talked about that in the season.
Yeah, that's a big issue, yeah.
And so the biggest, I think it was a conversation you either had with Heather that I think was the one that kind of encouraged it. Because when I found out, I think I found out either through you or through Heather. I cannot remember. But I was like, wait, really? And so Heather had a real moment with you where it's just like, that's not who we are.
Yeah.
Like, can you express a little bit more? Because it was more than you being timid, yes. But I think you were very just trying to be careful. And I respect that. But I'd love for you to open up about that.
I think through like everything that like decisions that I make, when it comes to serving, when it comes to friendships, relationships, like anything in that aspect, I'm always guarded just with everything. Like, I want to be careful. I want to make sure that it is God's will, because there's a lot of things that I've put myself in a spot where I feel like it's good, but it's not the will of God. So like, things can be good, but it not might be the direction that like God has me in. So it was that too, because, you know, in the past from like other churches and serving other ministries, I was burnt out a lot, even though I enjoyed it. But I felt like there was a lot of hardship that I went through that, because I would serve my heart out, but I wouldn't rest, and I wouldn't have that time to get fed or to sit in for services enough, because I was always wanting to serve, or like I was getting asked, hey, can you do this? Can you help out with that? And I was such a yes man. And that's why I love that episode, that no is a nice response, because I was like, wow, I needed that.
That's our favorite.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorites. No is a kind response.
Yes. Yeah. But so that was really hard, because coming from, you know, dealing with that and then coming to this new church, I did not want to serve at all. There was just a lot of things that, like, unforgiveness that I had, and just like some church hurt that I really had to navigate through and ask God for healing, and like I had to forgive others and like forgive myself for some things. So I was very guarded when I met Heather and Isaiah. Like, I love them. I was like, they're great people. I'm like, but I'm not doing this, and that. Yeah. They were like, okay, you know, but they're like, we see the calling on you, so that it's like, it's going to come one way.
Can I just take a moment to encourage a church leader when you notice and see someone with a gifting and a call on their life, love gently, encourage often, and just be there. Because the greatest thing I think we could have done, and I say my wife and I, is the moments that nobody saw.
Right.
Where Bree would come over to our house. I mean, house be a mess. This is how I knew Bree was family. Zoe was probably 2 at the time.
House is a shamble.
And she's just sitting there and she's just needing somebody to vent to.
Yeah.
But we were very careful. So be very careful with the sheep that you have been trusted to guide, because it could have went left. Like, you need to do this. That's not healthy. And anytime, and we say this all the time, anytime somebody says they can't make it, go rest.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You have a whole Sabbath Sunday.
It's coming up. By this airing, it's already passed. Like, we'd have a whole Sunday off because we need it. You know, our staff needs it. Our volunteers need it. So rest is very important. It's in the rhythms of what God has already set up.
Yeah.
Talk to us about being in school. That was a huge thing for you.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what that was like, doing college work, coming from, high school, because you took some time off. Talk to us about that experience.
Yeah. It is definitely a whole new, season for me, but it's exciting, and I know that God is just guiding me through everything, because I'm like, if I didn't have God in the center of this, I don't know. High school was really bad for me, just because I was very lukewarm, and I'd be, wanting to fit in and wanting to do everything that my friends did, but then I also, believed in God, and I wanted to build that relationship with him, so I would, never go to high school. I got in trouble several times because my attendance was but it was because I'd wake up and I would just feel the pressure and just other people's hurt or their depression or their anxiety. I would feel those spirits and it would just overwhelm me. Mm-hmm. And so that was also why my grades were not the best, or I would just not want to do anything because I was depressed from feeling like I had to be a certain way. But coming now into college, it's a whole different experience. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to do it either is because I'm disciplined. I was I don't want deadlines for things. I'm man, I could just clock out my 9 to 5, go to church, I'm chilling, everything's good, And I was just well, God's too bad. But, I need that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
I love that. Okay, keep going. Clock out 9 to 5.
Yeah, so I needed that discipline, though, and not just in school, but just in general, just with everything, with my time. But now being in school now, and it's for what God has called me to do, and coming out of that place of being timid and worrying about what other people thought, I'm no, God, it's just me and you, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. So it was very and I told my parents, because I remember when God revealed it to me, I was scrolling through Northwest looking at the degrees again, and I was oh, that would be nice. That would be nice. And then God literally highlighted the degree, and he was you need to be here this year. Stop playing. And I was just and I just start bawling, and my dad's freaking out because he's a girl dad, so anytime he sees one of us crying, he's oh boy, what happened now? But he was just what's wrong? I'm I need to go to Northwest. This is what I need to do. God's calling me. He's all right, let's do it, because he knows that I hear from the Lord, and he could feel it too. And he was let's get started. But being here now and knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's great. It's a great feeling, because I know I'm being obedient and I'm learning so much in his word and getting closer to my calling and being more confident of who I am in Christ and my identity in him. So
that's awesome. Very good. Well, I'm almost to the end of my coffee. I have yet to touch my lemon loaf, but trust me, I'm going to get on it.
We're just leaving it because it looks good.
It looks good. Well, it does look good, which is why it's so hard to not eat it. The last question we have from Miss Bree is my favorite question ever. And so if you're ever sitting here at the brag table, you're going to get asked this question. So make sure that you're in it. What is God teaching you now in this season at this time? What has God been teaching you lately?
Yeah. There's a verse, I think it's Proverbs 3, but lean not on your own understanding and acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. And that's a verse God's been highlighting to me, because he wants me to acknowledge him through everything. Yeah. And I think for a while I was only acknowledging him in the places where it was evident. I can acknowledge God in church, easy to do that. Right. But am I acknowledging God in my work field? Am I acknowledging God in, you know, circumstances that I'm going through, or like when I'm feeling certain ways or I'm feeling bad about myself? So it's really just like learning to acknowledge him through everything that I'm going through, and everything, even the good things, you know, like I don't need I don't need God just in the bad, but, you know, just learning discipline, learning how to be myself through everything. And I think God's really teaching me to be bold and boldness. So I think for a while I would always be scared to like pray for people or like people that I didn't know. But it's really just obedience. And I feel like this past year through this internship, like I'm learning more about myself and who God is to me and how he's such a good father to me through everything. And I'm excited because I can feel myself being more bold now for him, and to just pray for people, to just go out and to show Jesus to everyone, and going into my calling. And like when God tells me to do something, just do it. And he's really giving me that boldness to just be who I am in him. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And by the way, Bree's got like a real call. Like it's gigantic. And you know, I had released my leaders not too long ago, just in their gifting. Like, you know, if we're doing something, you know, and because she plays a role on our worship team, you know, with Justin and Jesse, I just kind of told them, I said, have your way with the service. Right. You know, if you want to flow. But there's been multiple times where I've seen Bree drop the mic to go pray for a young girl off the stage. And I don't think I would have saw that a year ago. But, you know, you're killing it. And she's not only killing it there, but in her classes. Like, she's finished all of her classes at the top. Nice. I think nothing less than a 95.
Nice.
So she's on it.
Dean's list over here. All right.
Shoot for it.
Come on now. That's good.
Oh God.
That's good.
All Jesus.
Well, hey, you've got an announcement.
Oh yeah, I do.
That you need to wrap up.
As we close out this episode, we here at the Ministry Talks podcast have our very first sponsor for the show. I will put all of the details down in the description. But shout out to Mr. Tony at beansforgiving.com. Fantastic coffee. We've been drinking his blend today called Sweet Jesus.
Sweet
Jesus. It is sweet.
And his Sweet Jesus is good.
And strong.
It's good. So
I'm gonna be up.
It's going to be good. So we will actually properly thank our sponsor here at the end of the video. But what we want to do is we want to thank Bree for being here with us today.
Thanks
and for sharing your heart and your journey. And, you know, we will continue to pray for you. And like we say here on the podcast, we don't know everything, but we're willing to walk with you through anything.
That's it.
So,
yeah. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks. Make sure, Isaiah, tell them where they can find us again.
YouTube, Spotify, like, subscribe. You can email us at mintalkspodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate the feedback, and we'll see you in the next episode.